To understand World War II, we have to go back, even before the war started. Picture this. It's 1919, the world is reeling from the devastation of World War I. Versailles Treaty had just been signed, and honestly, it wasn't a clean start for anyone.
Not at all. In fact, the treaty left Germany with economic penalties, territorial losses, and limits on its military, fostering a sense of betrayal and humiliation. They called it the War Guilt Clause, which angered many Germans.
Right. And while this was simmering, you had the rise of leaders who capitalised on that resentment. Hitler in Germany, Mussolini in Italy, and later militarist factions in Japan. They all promised to restore national pride and power.
Exactly. And their regimes thrived on control. Totalitarianism. People were drawn to strong leadership, especially during times of chaos. Germany, for instance, faced hyperinflation in the 1920s. Banknotes worth millions turned to scraps over dinner.
Ugh, imagine how desperate it must have felt. And then came the invasion of Poland in 1939, right?
Yes, September 1st to be exact. Germany attacked using Blitzkrieg, or lightning war tactics, the combination of speed and overwhelming force. Poland's defences were overwhelmed within weeks.
And that's when the dominoes started falling. Only 2 days later, Britain and France declared war on Germany. Cue the start of World War II.
It's incredible, really. A single invasion triggered a global conflict. What I find interesting and tragic is how calculated it all was. Blitzkrieg wasn't just new technology, it was a mindset. Germany combined tanks, air power, and infantry to crush resistance swiftly.
Oh, and speaking of mindsets, I used to think wartime events were just worlds away, you know. The Pianist was my first real encounter with World War II stories. I saw it as just a sad movie. But when I started reading about what happened in Poland, it wasn't just sad, it was catastrophic.
Absolutely. Films like The Pianist capture personal stories, but the depth of devastation goes beyond comprehension. Warsaw was left in ruins. The invasion wasn't simply political, it shattered lives and set unthinkable suffering into motion.
And that's only the start. World War II would snowball into an even bigger global catastrophe. But let's bookmark Poland for now. Next, we're diving into a moment that dragged a reluctant superpower into the war. The attack on Pearl Harbor.
After Poland, the world's focus might have shifted to Europe, but across the globe, events in the Pacific were brewing. And then came December 7th, 1941, a quiet Sunday morning in Hawaii that erupted into the attack everyone now calls Pearl Harbor. This was the moment that dragged the United States into the war, forever reshaping both the nation and the conflict.
It began early that morning. Imagine this. The harbour was calm, ships moored in neat rows, sailors going about their routines. Then came the low drone of planes. More than 350 Japanese bombers, torpedo planes and fighters. Within minutes, chaos broke loose.
It was a surprise attack in every sense. Battleships like the USS Arizona were destroyed in mere moments. Over 2,400 Americans died, and the attack crippled some of the US Pacific Fleet.
And what's crucial here is the ripple effect. America was shocked, outraged and galvanised in a way that no isolationist policy could now contain.
Right. Within 24 hours, the United States declared war on Japan. A few days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the US in an Axis show of solidarity. Just like that, America, a hesitant superpower, was thrust into a global war.
And their involvement turned the tide. Let's look at two pivotal battles, signposts of their impact. First, D-Day in Europe, June 6, 1944. The Allies launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, storming the beaches of Normandy.
Gosh, it gives me chills just thinking of it. Tens of thousands of troops, landing craft, paratroopers, all against fortified German defences. Talk about defiance in the face of impossible odds. By the day's end, over 150,000 Allied soldiers had pushed through the coastline, creating a foothold in Nazi-occupied France.
The logistics were immense, coordinating naval fleets, air cover, ground invasions. It was overwhelming. But it worked. D-Day became the turning point that eventually liberated Western Europe.
And then there's the Pacific. The Battle of Midway in June 1942 was a game changer. Earlier, Japan had been sweeping across the Pacific, capturing territory seemingly at will. But Midway? That's where the US Navy dealt a devastating blow.
And they did it with brains as much as brawn. American cryptographers had cracked Japan's naval codes, which gave the US an edge. They anticipated Japan's moves and caught their fleet off guard, sinking 4 aircraft carriers.
4. That's massive. Japan lost their advantage, and from then on, it was the US making gains.
Absolutely. Midway didn't just halt Japan's momentum, it shifted the balance toward the Allies in the Pacific theatre. And it all hinges on technological breakthroughs, radar, cryptanalysis, and of course, Alan Turing's contributions in breaking the Enigma cipher.
And isn't that fascinating? Wars aren't won on brute force alone. Intelligence, both human and technological, played just as big a role. From the beaches of Normandy to the waters of the Pacific, every element counted.
And speaking of counting, each victory chipped away at Axis control. But it wasn't over. Next time, we'll explore the crumbling of the Axis powers, from the surrender of Germany in 1945 to the events that forced Japan's hand later that summer.
And then it came. May 8th, 1945. Victory in Europe Day. After relentless pushes on both the Western and Eastern fronts, Germany finally surrenders. Imagine the streets erupting with celebration, flags waving, people cheering, but also a profound awareness of the immense toll this war demanded.
Absolutely. 60 million lives lost. Cities like Berlin reduced to rubble. But beyond the physical devastation, there was also a broken moral compass, shattered by atrocities like the Holocaust, the systematic murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others deemed undesirable by the Nazi regime.
And this wasn't the full stop. Even with Germany's surrender, the war raged on in the Pacific. By August 1945, the Allies were looking for a way to end it decisively. That's when the unthinkable happened. Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yes. On August 6th, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, killing tens of thousands instantly. 3 days later, a second bomb fell on Nagasaki. The cost, searing devastation, lives obliterated, but it forced Japan's surrender by August 15th.
It's hard to even grasp the enormity of those decisions, but one thing was clear. The world had entered the nuclear age, and everything changed. The Allies weren't just winning a war, they were shaping the post-war world.
And a new framework emerged from the ashes, the United Nations. Founded later that year, in 1945, it was meant to prevent such horrors from ever happening again, fostering international cooperation and creating a platform for nations to resolve disputes peacefully.
But it wasn't just about peacekeeping. The UN also laid the groundwork for protecting human rights globally. In 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was adopted, ensuring every individual everywhere would have basic rights and dignity.
It's worth reflecting here. The measures came too late for the millions of lives taken during the Holocaust, forced labour camps and wartime massacres. But they set a precedent, one that continues to challenge us to remember and to improve.
And isn't that the legacy of World War II? Beyond the battles and the treaties, it's a reminder of what humanity is capable of, both its darkest depths and moments of unity. We learned, albeit painfully, that we need each other, as countries and as humans.
And we're still learning. The war left scars on cities, on nations, but also taught us resilience and the importance of collaboration. Global efforts like combating climate change or addressing inequality owe some of their structure to the frameworks born then.
So as we close this chapter, let's not just look back at the devastation. Let's think of our role in continuing the work to build a better world. After all, history isn't just something we inherit, it's something we shape.
Well put. And on that note, thanks for joining us on this journey through one of the most defining events in human history. Until next time, take care, learn, and stay curious.